Human Talk students, welcome back to Cybersecurity 101. I am your professor. This week we are diving into networking, but before we get into that, I got a quick announcement for the class. I have recently announced my office hours and I put how to get those, how to schedule that in my bio. So if you want to schedule office hours with me, I've seen some people already seen it, started taking up some slots. I am open on Wednesday and I'm open on Saturday as well for 20-minute sessions. That way I can get to as many of you as I can. Also, my YouTube page is up and going. So if you missed TikToks here, it's going to be posted on the YouTube as well, especially for those live sessions. Also, I have supplementary videos that are going to be supplemented to, or that are going to be populating to that YouTube page as well. Make sure you are subscribed to that channel if you want additional resources. That channel is JAYBYTEBANK. You can search that on YouTube, or you can just go to my bio and click on it and it'll be way much easier. Subscribe to that channel, and yeah, let's go ahead and begin with our second week, first Monday lecture. I'm hoping you guys are ready. This week we are covering networking. All right, so since this is a 101 class, my job is to give you a knowledge in such a way that everyone can also understand, and also encourage you to dive a little bit deeper into the knowledge that I give you as well. For this particular class, we're going to be talking about some terminologies that you're going to be seeing within a networking setting. The terms we're going to be discussing today are the following: IP address, domain name system, local area network, wide area network, switch, router, unicast, multicast, broadcast, server, services, and ports. Okay, so to make discussing these topics or these terminology words a little bit easier, I created an analogy I hope you are going to like. If so, let me know in the comments down below if you like what I'm doing here. So for these terms to be discussed, let's first imagine a city, right? Just a plain city. And inside of that city, we'll call that city Cyber City. Inside of that city, we have multiple different neighborhoods, right? We have neighborhood A, we have neighborhood B, we have neighborhood C, and so on. Inside of each of these neighborhoods, we have 5 houses, and each of those houses have an address. So for example, we have 123 King Street, we have 314 Martin Street, and you get the picture. The address of each house is going to represent an IP address in this analogy, and the houses are going to represent a computer. When a computer connects to a network, it is given a set of numbers that define how to find that computer on that network. Just like each one of these houses are given an address, so that way you can find the houses within the local area network or the local neighborhood. Now, remembering the addresses of all the homes inside of all of the neighborhoods is really hard for the human brain to do, especially as you add more homes. For humans, it is way easier to remember a name than it is to remember a set of numbers. So inside of neighborhood A, let's say that there's a man named Mr. James that lives at 123 Martin Street. Now, instead of referring to that home, the address, if you want to refer to that home, you just have to refer to it as Mr. James's house. And that process that we just did, replacing that home address with a name that is easier for us to remember, is what the process of domain naming system does. An IP address that's given to a computer can look like a series of numbers, so similar to this or similar to this. And it's going to be very hard for humans to remember all of those numbers when visiting all the websites that they like. So instead of remembering these numbers, we just remember some type of nickname for it instead. Now, in every one of these neighborhoods, there is a grandma that knows everyone in that neighborhood. And in order to communicate to anyone in the neighborhood, you have to go through that grandma. Those are just the rules. So if Mr. James wanted to speak to Mrs. Claudette, he would have to forward a letter to the grandma, who would then forward that letter off to Mrs. Claudette. Now, this is how communication works in all of the local areas. And the grandma in this example is playing the role of a switch. And the job of a switch, when we're talking about the IT world, networking world, is to allow communication between all computers, or at least all computers that's hooked up to that switch. And there are multiple neighborhoods, keep that in mind, but the grandma is only concerned about the people in her local area network, That neighborhood A is a local area network. Now, Mr. James ain't never been no one-woman type of man, and we all know that. So what happens when he wants to send a letter to Mrs. Paulette as well? Well, Mr. James is going to send that letter to the grandma in his network again, but this time the grandma is going to get that letter and see it and think, I don't know no Miss Paulette, and I know everybody in this neighborhood. So she must not live in this network, meaning she must not be local to this network. And this is where our analogy starts to expand a little bit. Inside of this cyber city, we recognize that we have different neighborhoods. Neighborhood A, neighborhood B, neighborhood C. We said that earlier. Well, in the middle of the city, connecting all of these local neighborhoods together is a town hall. And when a grandma or a switch does not know the address of a letter given to her, she sends that letter off to the town hall, which is serving as a router in this example. Now, that town hall is aware of all of the other grandmas or switches in this wider area network, because that town hall connects everybody in a wide area network. That's that WAN part, right? So when the town hall gets that letter, it checks that letter and it sees its list of grandmas in its record tables, and it says, okay, I know which grandma knows the location of Miss Paulette. So that town hall then sends that letter off to that grandma in the neighborhood where Mrs. Paulette lives at. So the grandma in that neighborhood gives that letter to Mrs. Paulette, and boom, that communication channel between Mr. James and Mrs. Paulette has now been established. This example, this analogy that I'm using, again, is how your computer is communicating with other computers on the network. Now, when Mr. James communicated with Miss Paulette, that one communication, that was called a unicast, just one-on-one communication between two computers, two people, two homes. Now, let's say Mr. James, Miss Paulette, and Steve all subscribe to the same magazine. Every time a magazine drops, it is sent to all those three people, but just those three people. We got multiple neighborhoods, multiple computers, multiple people, but it's just those three people that gets it when those magazine drops. That's called a multicast. A broadcast would be if everybody on that street got an alert, or if everybody in a local area network got an alert. Let's say from a police scan reporting or something like that. That's an example of a broadcast. All right, so finally, let's talk about servers, services, and ports. Let's say in every neighborhood there is a school, and that school offers different activities. Inside of that school, to get to the activities, you have to go behind each door. Behind door 80, there is an art class offering ideas on how to create websites. Behind door 21, there is a library that offers you how to get and transfer books. And behind door 445, you get a class that shows you how to store gym equipment. In this example, the door represents the port, the services are what you're actually getting by each class, and the server is the school itself. So that's a little analogy there. If you are still listening, here's some opportunity to earn another bonus point. I want you to look up these 3 acronyms, and I want you to type down in the comments below what each one of these acronyms stand for. If you do that, you'll get a bonus point in order to compete for a $600 voucher. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can do the same thing. Just comment down below in the YouTube comment section the names of the acronyms as well as your TikTok handle, so that way I can assign the points to the right person. This is the end of lecture 1. I'm going to be uploading a video showing you how to use Packet Tracer on YouTube to take this networking schema just a little bit further and give you some technical understanding behind that. So make sure you catch that as it adds to your supplementary knowledge and give you some technical skills to work with. Thank you for coming to class. If you have any questions, put me on the office hours and we'll go from there. Go Panthers. Shout out Dr. Bob.